sometimes feel like your family transitions are overwhelming you? Like everything is happening at the same time and you wish you knew how to handle it better? Then you're in the right place today, because I'm chatting to expert parenting blogger Emma from theinnerexpat.com, and she's sharing her 4 best tips on how to handle any family transition without the stress and overwhelm. Watch now and discover exactly how many legs you need to be an intentional parent, able to cope with whatever life throws your way. Hi Emma, and welcome.
Hi there, thanks very much for having me, Esty.
So to get this started, please tell us something about you that most people don't know.
Right, well, one thing that a lot of people don't know about me, even though I've lived in 4 different countries and traveled around the world a couple of times, been very fortunate. As a child and into my teens, I was absolutely painfully shy to the point that I wouldn't barely speak to anyone, whether it was a teacher or another adult. And I had an awful experience. Whenever I went on holiday, I was desperate to go home again after a few days, because I was just such a homebody and I really liked having the security and the normality of home, I suppose. So it's kind of somewhat ironic that in my late teens, I moved to France and I kind of transformed myself from that point onwards, and have enjoyed living a different life and transitioning in different countries ever since then. So it's a kind of roundabout way of living my life, really.
So at the moment, one of my biggest struggles as a parent is just to keep my family safe and healthy during this pandemic. Is there something that keeps you up at night?
Oh, good question. Keeping my immediate family, my husband, my 2 kids, keeping them safe and healthy. I'm probably not as concerned about that now as I certainly was last year. I'm obviously more concerned about our older members of our family that are in the UK. But yeah, obviously within the normal realms of being healthy, where in Spain here, we have to wear our masks all the time as soon as we're out of the house, and using hand gel and all that kind of thing. So we try and live our lives in a safe and careful way, but not to the point that we try and engender a sense of fear and we won't go out and do anything. So it's kind of having that balance. And I think, touch wood, we're all fit and healthy people. So we've had a couple of scares in our family and had to be tested, but we haven't had the virus, but I know several people that have. So yeah, there's a caution, but there's not fear, I think, is what I'd say.
And is there something else worrying you?
I think as a parent, I'm very good at worrying. As a parent, there's always something to worry about, and if I don't find something to worry about, then I worry about the fact that I'm not worrying. It's a vicious circle. But yeah, I often will worry. You know, I'll think at the end of the day, did I deal with that situation as well as I could have done? What support or help do my kids need, whether it's at school, whether it's something that's happening with their friends? Do we really know what's happening with them? Do they talk to us about things? My kids are 13 and 11 now, and I try and have a very close relationship with them. But also we have to respect the fact that they're leading their own lives. So it's difficult. I'm starting to get into the next phase of parenting, and respecting the fact that they've got to deal with their own things as well. And if they want to talk to me, I'm here, but equally I can't insert myself into their situations either. So that's the challenge that I am facing right now as a parent, and having that balance.
And Emma, tell me, what is the one thing that most parents have to face at some point in life that you can help them with?
Right, well, I think as parents, we all have to deal with the day-to-day challenges of being a parent, which is, just sometimes it can be the monotony of it. Sometimes it can be the day-to-day disruptions or ups and downs. But the big transitions are the things that I've really had quite a lot of experience with as a parent and as an individual. And I've sought support for that where I've needed, for me personally and for our family. So the big transitions, I think, whether it's starting daycare or childcare, or starting school, moving to a new country, having to deal with changing family circumstances. The big transitions is something that I've had a lot of experience with as a parent. We've lived in 3 different countries, in Australia, Costa Rica, and now in Spain. And obviously you can imagine that just throws up so many different things that you have to think about: leaving a country, leaving a school, leaving your friends, transitioning to a new country, starting a school, learning a new language, starting again. We've done that twice, and then equally trying to maintain those friendships and particularly the family relationships with our family back in the UK. So we've been, we've had our ups and downs on that. I'm not going to pretend for 1 minute that it's all been perfect, but we've learned an awful lot. I've learned a lot about myself, but also about the best ways to try and deal with that as a parent. And our children, as a result, I think are growing up to become very resilient children, with a strong sense of self and confidence, but also being down to earth, because I think it's a balance again. You can sometimes have that kind of life and you can end up not being able to relate with people that have not have that kind of experience in life. So trying to keep their feet on the ground as well. So I'm not pretending for a minute I've done this on my own. I've done it with the support of my husband and with lots of resources. I've been very fortunate that I've come across some excellent teachers, and I've done a number of courses through the Neufeld's Institute. Dr. Gordon Neufeld, who's based in Canada, a psychologist who's very much in the field in terms of child psychology and dealing with that, and also Dr. Laura Markham, who works a lot in this area as well. And I've really I've read so many books and subscribed to so many different newsletters and courses over my time, but I found that these two particular people have really helped guide me in working with this with our family and trying to find the best way for us to deal with those things in a practical way, to make sure that our relationship within our family with the children is the one that's most important, and the other stuff is kind of peripheral, to really keep it centered on us four, to make sure that we're a strong and stable family unit. And as a result, we have got a strong family unit that I think we've been able to live in the different countries. We've been traveling around the world for 6 months and homeschooled. We've been able to do so many things as a result of that. Like I say, I'm not going to pretend that it's perfect, because it's not. It's certainly a work in progress. But by really having that sense of communication and relationship being at the heart of what we do as parents, I think has really enabled us to have a strong connection and to try and ride the ups and downs of day-to-day life and the big transitions that we've made.
Mm-hmm. Right, so Emma, I think it's wonderful that you're willing to share your experience and all the knowledge that you have to help people with this, because from personal experience, I know how hard it can be to transition into a new country and a new language and everything that goes with that. It's certainly not easy. So what are your 3 best tips to help us with these kind of changes?
Right. Well, it's a combination of 3 things that I think are critical, and I've made it into legs. Basically, is the 3 well, it's actually, I say it's 3 letters, but it's really 4 letters. Legs: listen, empathize and normalize, guidance and support. So the first one, L for listen. I think as parents, certainly me as a mother, my own personal experience, I think the most important thing is actually, you think we'd say listen to our kids, but most important thing I think is listening to ourselves. And when we are going through big transitions in life, whether it's moving to a new country or our children starting their first day at school, it can bring up so many things for ourselves. And I think it's becoming a bit of an overused term almost, and it's a difficult thing to say because it's such an important thing, but I think it's just something that we've got used to people saying now, is that we need to really focus on our own needs and what's bringing up for us before we start to think about our kids and how we deal with them. And I remember, for a start, when my kids first started their first day at school, I was emotional. I think most parents are. It brings up a whole combination of stuff. You're proud, you're excited for them, but also it's a level of grief and sadness there as well, that they're kind of starting to move into the next transition of life and kind of away from you in some senses. So I think it's really important to start with listening to our own emotions and our own hopes, fears, whatever they might be, and to really sit with those as best we can. And I personally find things like journaling, sitting still with a cup of tea and just having to think about things. I've also really find walking outside in nature or talking to a friend, meditation, have all given me that ability to connect with myself and to not only think about my kids, because I've certainly been guilty of putting their needs always before my own, and that can often end up in all kinds of other problems. And so that has certainly been a bit of a mind switch for me, to try and think more about what I need. And otherwise you can end up with all sorts of frustration and anger that comes out on them because I haven't responded to what I need. And then obviously once I've done that, listening to them. So when we've moved to a different country, we obviously haven't kind of told them this is what we're doing and you haven't got any right to reply on that. But equally, we haven't said to them, it's up to you that we're moving to this country. So it's kind of, we're saying, right, we're thinking about doing this. We're thinking about moving to Costa Rica, and it sounds like an exciting idea and opportunity, and talking to them and listening to their how they feel about it, and just leaving it at listening. Because I think sometimes as parents, certainly I've been guilty of this, is kind of jumping in and saying, oh no, but that's not going to happen, or it's going to be okay, I promise it's all going to be okay. But actually genuinely listening to them and giving them the time to just bring up positive and negatives. And really, this is where the E comes in, the empathize, and say, you know, I hear you. I hear that you're worried about this, or you're sad about leaving your friends, or you're nervous about whatever. I totally get it. And normalizing their experience. And I think this is something that's so important, that we actually say that is entirely normal to have that fear or that emotion or that excitement, whatever it might be. There's nothing to be scared of or to try and shut that down. It's really normal to have those fears and experiences, or whatever it might be. And I've been there too, you know, whether it relates back and say, okay, I remember my first day at school, and I was so excited. I woke my parents up at the crack of dawn and they sent me back to bed or whatever. And saying we're all different, there's no one right or wrong. And yeah, like I say, really putting ourselves in their shoes and understanding what they're saying to us. And only once we've let them speak and we've listened to them and we've empathized them, then we might get to the point we might offer them some guidance and support. So that's where the G and S comes in. So they feel like they've been fully listened to, they've been fully witnessed, instead of it being straight jump in, let's try and fix a problem, which can really shut down their emotions and make them feel completely invalidated. I certainly have had that happen to me in my life, and it just makes you shut down, and you stop expressing yourself and stop really being who you are, which can lead to all sorts of mental health issues and other things too. So once we've got to the point that we have listened to them and let them say their piece, that we can start to say, okay, right, great, you've told us how you feel. I understand what you're saying about you're being nervous about your first day at school. You're not sure what to expect about your teacher, what your teacher's going to be like, for example. Totally understand. Of course you don't know what your teacher's going to be like. It's new, but I'm sure we can find ways of trying to either speak to the teacher or meet the teacher or go in a bit early that day to get to know the teacher, so we can start to solve that problem and build some bridges, some connections with the things that they're scared about. One thing that we did with our children for each of the 3 schools that they've been to is the first day they went to school, they were kind of a mixture of nervous and excited, and said, okay, at the end of today, what would you like to say that you've achieved at the end of this day? What one thing would make you feel like you've had a good day? And fortunately, they both chose something that wasn't completely out of the realms of possibilities. And they said, just have the name of one new friend. Oh. And I was like, gosh, yeah, that's so important, isn't it? That you've just got one person that you know who they are and you can count them as a friend at the first day of school. And it was also an achievable thing. You know, it'd be pretty hard to not come away knowing one person's name and feeling that you knew someone at the end of that day. And even now, having been to 3 different schools in 3 different countries, they still talk about, oh, I remember the first day of school and we said, would it be nice to have one friend? And we came home with 2 or 3 friends and names. And it, just to have that sense of belonging and that sense of feeling that they were connecting with someone, the sense of community is so critically important for children, I think. And for us, it was just really nice to feel that they felt that they succeeded on their first day by having that one small thing that someone was holding their hand through the process. So that was my kind of.
And I think that is such.
Sorry,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that was my 3 tips to say.
Go ahead, Emma.
The importance of the 3 things is listening to them and to us, to empathize and normalize, and offering that guidance and support, but only after we've really given them the opportunity to share their perspective and to make them feel really fully heard and listened to.
Mm-hmm. Emma, I think your LEX acronym is a very powerful tool that we can use, for any parenting situation, not just when there's transitions, but so many things we face in life. And I wanted to say earlier that you just knowing one person's name example is such a brilliant example of our kids not being like us in terms of overcomplicating things. We so often overcomplicate things and think about all these things that can happen and might happen, and we warn them about it. Kids don't think like that, and we shouldn't put all these pressures on them. We should sometimes just leave them to have their uncomplicated thinking and enjoy it for what it is.
Totally. No, you're absolutely spot on. We often kind of transfer our own fears and worries about everything onto them, and they haven't even thought about it.
All right, Emma, so you've really shared some great tips with us here. And if our audience want to learn even more from you, where can they find you?
Great, thank you very much, Leslie. My blog, as you said earlier, is on innerexpat.com. It's a very new blog, and we talk all about the experiences, the emotional side of being an expat, and it's all about people that are living abroad. But actually, I think it applies, like you say, to anyone, to be perfectly honest. It's all about living our lives, particularly in the current situation. We're all living our lives in a very different way and reevaluating how we prioritize our lives and our families. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at Inner Expat, if you just type that in. And I'm hoping in the next couple of months to launch YouTube videos and a podcast. So it's all a work in progress. Sometimes as parents, we almost think it's a reflection of ourselves. Anything that the child brings forth into this world is kind of a reflection on us as parents, which is completely ridiculous when you think about it rationally, because they're their own people and they've got their own interests and lives and their own selves and personalities that they have to explore. So it's actually not a grade or any kind of reflection on us at all. So for me, I have to keep kind of stepping away from it and allowing her to do her own work, her own best things, and let her learn from the things that she does and her experiences. And that might be successful, it might not be successful, but there's only one way she's going to find out. So that's the thing that is very challenging for me.
And I think we're all guilty of that at some point. And I guess it comes in that thin line between being an intentional parent, which is what we want to be, and just completely taking over.
Exactly. And there is a very fine line, like you say. It's not as if sometimes you might step over a bit, but you at least acknowledging it and realizing you're doing it and then coming back, and it's all a work in progress. It's not as if one day you are intentional, one day you're not. It's like from moment to moment, you just got to be present with who you are and what you're doing.
Absolutely. All right. So Emma, as we conclude this, tell me, what is the one thing that you wished you knew before you had kids?
Oh, it's a very difficult question, and also difficult to know whether I would have listened to myself as well. I think the biggest thing for me would have been maybe to think a little bit more about myself as a parent, and to think about my childhood, and talk to my husband about it as well, about our experiences in childhood, and think about the kind of parents that we want to be, and really learn to trust ourselves and our own instincts and our own gut. I certainly went into parenting trying to look at the answers from everybody else. I was exploring all the books and and it's such an overwhelm of information. I was, just driving myself a bit mad, to be perfectly honest. So firstly, just tuning into the kind of parents that we are and we want to be, and trusting our own instincts. And if someone had told me 14 years ago to learn more about people like Dr. Laura Markham and Dr. Gordon Neufeld, that would have been absolutely fantastic, because it took me, 8 years into parenting to find those people to help really tune into the kind of parent I want to be, and have the tools and the support to be able to grow into the kind of parents that we aspire to be, and have that relationship with our kids.
Sure. Well, Emma, thank you so much for sharing your listen, empathize, guidance and support system with us. I think it's very valuable and we can all put it to good use. And we're looking forward to learn more from you.
Great. Thank you ever so much, Esther. It's been great talking with you.
Thank you for watching this Good Mom interview with Emma from innerexpat.com. Remember to leave a comment and let us know about your family transition struggles and how you're handling them. Subscribe and be the first to know when the next Good Mom interview is out. I'm Esther Alessandrini from healthyfamilyandme.com. Thank you for visiting and see you soon.